Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Who is the person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed Hajj upon and made it obligatory on that person to perform Hajj? The Muslim scholar said, first of all, Muslim. Hajj is obligatory upon Muslim because the Hajj is an act of worship, so you cannot ask a non-Muslim to go to Hajj, obvious. Also, they said it has to be, a person must be aqil, a person of aqil and baligh, okay? So they said a person who's sane, so insane person is not supposed to be doing Hajj, and the child, so maturity is one of the conditions that must be exist in the persons who Hajj is obligatory upon. Maturity, so means here a person who reached the age of adultery, so he's an adult. As-sabi, the child, is Hajj is not obligated upon him or her. But if they perform Hajj, is it correct? Is it acceptable? The answer, yes, it is acceptable. How old? It doesn't matter, even if he is a baby, according to the strongest opinion and among the scholars, even if it is a baby few months or few weeks or few days old. But that doesn't mean that the obligations was fulfilled, because the obligation established when he or she reached the age of puberty. When they basically, if a woman, if a girl start her period, a man basically reached the age of puberty with all the conditions that we know about how a person became an adult in Islam. So if he or she did the Hajj prior to that age, it is acceptable, but it doesn't mean that it fulfilled the obligation. So the person has to make it whenever they reach the age of puberty. So the ajr of it will go to his wali, to the person who's in charge of him. It's the father or it's the mother, and that basically will happen by putting that child on ihram and let them do the ritual of Hajj. Okay, and if a person cannot say, like a child, a week or 2 weeks or a month, cannot say, obviously, labbaik Allahumma bi umrah, labbaik Allahumma bi hajj, the person who put the ihram on him or her can do that on their behalf. It can be carried and go around Kaaba, around Safa al Marwa, and then you will take the ajr of the person. Do the rules and the condition that apply to every step in Hajj apply to the baby? No. What if he breaks one of the ihram, like you shave the baby's head while he's in ihram? Does that make any penalty on the person who making? The strongest opinion among the scholars, no. It's not. There's no penalty in it because he's not originally mukallaf. Okay, so here we say, and again, this is a debatable issue, but that's what I see the majority of the fuqaha and the strongest opinion that the child, if he perform Hajj, the conditions of ihram and all the rules not necessarily apply to him, but if you do it correct and you do the process of Hajj, inshallah, you share the ajr. As in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, a woman came, Ali had a Hajj and she raised her child. He said, Na'am walaki ajru. Yes, there is Hajj for such person, but you get the ajr of that child. The next condition is that person must be capable of performing Hajj. Qadir. Okay? What capability here means? When we say the person must be capable of offering Hajj. Ulama rahimahullah, capable means two things. Capable physically and financially. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. The performing Hajj prescribed upon people for those who have the ability to offer it, in Surah Al Imran. Okay? So the ability, it means financial and also physical. Ulama rahimahullah also used the word azad wal rahila. Okay, they said it is the provision and the right, and he is physically can go to that place. Physically can go because of he's sound. He can stand up. He can walk. He can, or if he can do through some other means helping him to do the Hajj, okay, and it is possible for him, yes, it is wajib. But also it can be something outside of him, like for example, he can't go to Hajj because there is no visa. Because if he goes out of this place, he will be, he lose his status, for example, in a country. Or because there is someone will arrest him in the airport if he leaves, a zalim or something like that. So in this case, this person does not have the capability to go to Hajj, even though financially and physically he can. And when the ulama rahimahullah zad, they mean provision in the old days because it's about food and drink and today it's about the zad means you're basically the expenses of Hajj. And the expenses of Hajj should be calculated as following. Number one, all the financial responsibility upon you must be fulfilled first. Like what? If you have debt, you tell me I have a $10,000 debt, okay? And the person who give me the debt need the money right now. We say to that person, pay your debt, okay? Or he has kafara, a penalty that he must feed, for example, because he made an oath and he broke the oath. Or he must do a penalty in Islam, kafara min al-kafarat, one of the penalties that prescribe, and there is a financial responsibility for it. We say, fulfill that penalty before you calculate the money for Hajj. Or nadhr, he made another that he will spend that. We said, fulfill all these first. Then also fulfill all the obligations, the financial obligation upon you. For instance, it will not be acceptable to take the money for Hajj and you let your kids and your family have no rent, or they can't go to school, or no health insurance for them to cover, or their needs. Or the money that you give to your father to help him to live or to survive, or your mother. So if this is obligatory upon you to survive, to serve, and to help family members, you must fulfill, or your spouse, your wife, you fulfill that first. Then we see what you need. That said, no, ulama rahimahullah add one more thing. They said also he must calculate if he go to Hajj and spend money, let's say I have enough money to take care of all the penalties, all the nadhr, all the debt that I have enough money to cover the expense of my family. Al-fuqaha, subhanAllah, they said also, he must look at al-hawa'ij al-asliyah ba'd al-ruju'. When he comes back from Hajj, would he have what it takes to survive? So if somebody said, you know what, I have money, I can cover all the expenses, I'm going to Hajj. But if he go to Hajj, he's going to be fired from his work. And when he come back, he doesn't have money to survive. And he will be out of job. He cannot say, I'm going to go to Hajj and come, inshallah, Allah will take care of me. And we said, no, make sure that when you come back, you have enough money also to start your life, to cover the necessity of your life. And al-ulama rahimahullah said also, if he has a business, that he has enough money to cover what this business need to continue. Let's say the rent of your store, or the money to cover the merchandise that you bring into your store. So you have that. Whatever extra from all this, okay, and we talk about the minimum, not to the max, the minimum in all these areas, in the area of what you need to, what would you need when you come back to survive upon, or while you are in the Hajj, you need it to basically keep your business running. If you calculate that and you have extra money in your saving or your bank, whatever, that means you are capable financially to go to Hajj. Or that what azzat. Also ar-rahila, the mean to go for Hajj. The mean to go for Hajj today basically comes in the group. So you can join one of these groups who will, the only way to go to Hajj day through one of these groups. So you have enough money to pay for one of these Hajj groups or Umrah group to take you there. Or if you can go around that, some way you have ability to do that, it is basically the airplane ticket. It means also the hotel. It means the transportation from here to there. All this part of the rahil.